Welcome back to day 5 of 50 Days to Rebuild, where I'm doing 50 minutes of exercise a day and reading 50 pages of a physio book. Starting with the 50 minutes of exercise, much of the same things I've been doing the past few days. I really want to bring attention to the band pull apart though. I've been having success with this the last couple of days, but today it felt particularly good because I was focusing on downward rotation. This is something that I guess is basically just adduction, but mixing that in with retraction felt better. It felt like the movement was better. I then chased this with the dowel extension. I also tried to get the downward rotation here, and this felt like I had less of a sort of sketchy range as we were coming back to about horizontal. That was really cool to see, that having that downward rotation with retraction and external rotation just felt more secure. The only other probably weird thing that I was doing was with my tibialis raises. I just was not really feeling the squeeze, which is not unusual when I do that exercise. I just sort of tilted my foot in and just gave that a go, and I was like, oh, this is firing much better, which in hindsight makes a lot of sense. I know that the tib does inversion as well as dorsiflexion, so why not combine those movements? I guess sometimes when I've learned about certain functions of muscles, they're not always synchronous movement, so it wouldn't be, say, dorsiflexion and inversion. It would be, I can do inversion but not dorsiflexion at the same time, or I can do one or the other basically. But the feeling and the sensation I got from doing this was that was not the case, so sort of alternated between the two, and that felt really nice. With anatomy trains, also not too much to cover. Did get through the 50 pages, but essentially finished the book. Got to the end, but then got through to the appendix. A bit of strange thing, I wouldn't normally read the appendix, but there's actually a lot of info here. And for this edition, the author said that he put what was chapter 1 in the appendix. Having read through it, may have been helpful to be chapter 1. But anyway, that's what I've been reading. Started off with body reading. So this was essentially like if we took photos from the front, sides, back, and above, if we could start to identify compensations. And there are a few examples in the book, and I actually tried to go through these and sort of predict prior to reading on. I did okay, not great. Trying to see like, oh, do we have a tilt of the shoulder? Is it forward? Is it back? Is it rotated? Is the pelvis tilted? All these different compensations. And then trying to see, okay, well, what muscle could be involved and what line could be involved. That is a cool sequence to run through, and I think I'm going to try and do that on myself. But I did definitely find it hard to go from, okay, I'm seeing this compensation, what line is it? And there was a little bit of lacking the ability to see some of the compensations, but I was able to get most of them. There was one tip in the book: if someone's more internally or medially rotated, it's sort of wider in the front and thinner at the back, and vice versa for external rotation. So I might try to, again, apply that to myself and see what I can find. From here, it was basically my first foray into physiology. Definitely not my main interest, but I guess there were some interesting parts of it. From a fascia perspective, it seems that I was misunderstanding what it is. Fascia is connective tissue generally, but I thought that was, like this really clear, like, not clear, but collagen structure. Turns out that's just part of the fascia. The fascia is even liquid. It's a bunch of different tissues, from like blood cells to this extracellular matrix and interstitium. So many different things going on there. So it was weird to see that's what fascia is. What I guess I've been referring to as fascia is more of this, these aponeuroses. It is the collagen part, I guess, is the main thing that I've been focusing on. Though physiology definitely isn't my main interest, I guess there were some key things here that were actually applicable. So they touched on fibroblasts, which are a type of fascia, and they lay down extra fascia, like the actual collagen type tissue. And basically what the book said is that they can promote that, but only under repetitive sustained load. Beyond that, looking at these fascial sheets, how he actually changed them, they were described as plastic. I guess I never really thought about it when I've heard plasticity, which is funny, but they're not readily flexible. So if we actually do want to change that, we need to slowly stretch, and if we quickly stretch, we might snap. Definitely not how I've really stretched in the past, to tell the truth. So this is something I might try and apply. Beyond that, kind of cool thing, just there are actually some genetic differences in fascia in terms of the overall stiffness. Now that's going to change with lots of different factors, but they described it as, I believe, Viking, or I can't remember the other one, but it's kind of like really supple. You can obviously move it in the right direction with training, but it's saying, hey, sometimes we're naturally going to have like really stiff fascia. We're going to be really capable of bearing a lot of weight. We're going to be very stable, but not very mobile. And alternatively, maybe we're more limber, but not the most stable. Quick little nerd fact about the different types of tissues. So again, this was really my first time learning about them. It basically was describing that these different main types of tissues, so epithelial cells, muscle cells, connective tissue, and nerve cells, they're basically just specialized from, let's say, like a stem cell, I believe it was. The nerve cell is specialized in conduction, even though all of the cells can conduct. The fascia is specialized in supporting, even though they all have some sort of supportive role. The muscle can contract like nothing else, even though for the most part they can all somewhat contract. And then the epithelial cells can secrete better than the other ones. So that's just another little nerd fact. And yeah, that's day 5 wrapped up. Thanks for listening, and I'll see you tomorrow.